Hey, everybody. Welcome to PermanenteDocs Chat. I'm Alex McDonald, your host. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today, I'm very excited to speak to our guest. We're joined by Dr. Linda Shiue, who's an internist and the director of culinary medicine at TPMG and also Thrive Kitchen. And most notably, the author of this new amazing cookbook called Spice Box Kitchen. Mine's signed by the author. So those of you who don't have a copy, you know, maybe we'll figure out a virtual signing session after this too. So may I call you Linda?
Of course, Alex. Nice to see you.
So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to kind of get right to the point here. So if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat or put them in the comments on Facebook. Those of you who know me know that I'm a big believer in lifestyle medicine, and nutrition and diet is such an important piece to not only treat and prevent, but also reverse some disease as well too. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Linda. So start off by telling us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm an internist and I practice primary care, and I've been doing that for more than 20 years. And I'm also the director of culinary medicine at Kaiser Permanente in San Francisco, where I founded Thrive Kitchen cooking classes. And I did that now going on 7 years ago. But my story about how I got into doing this somewhat unusual thing of practicing culinary medicine began 10 years ago, when I went to a CME course called Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives, which I encourage everyone to attend. It's every February in Napa. And I have negotiated a discount code for Kaiser physicians, which is Kaiser, gives you 10% off registration. Anyway, I went to that conference for the first time 10 years ago, and it was truly that mythical light bulb moment that, you know, only a few of us are lucky enough to see, recognize, and take advantage of. But at this conference, which combines nutrition science with actual food, hands-on and demonstration cooking sessions with the chefs from the Culinary Institute of America, which hosts the meeting, in addition to a lot of scientists and nutritionists from Harvard and many other places. I realized that that's what I needed to feel this joy in medicine, and what my patients needed. Because at that point, you know, having practiced primary care for more than 10 years at that point, I felt like I was just writing a lot of prescriptions, and I felt like my patients weren't getting better. And I felt like I wasn't really practicing as creatively as I wanted to. And I think that's actually really important when we think about being who we are as doctors. You know, what do you bring to it? It was at that conference that I realized this was it for me, because I'd always loved food. And literally less than a week after that conference, I started teaching cooking classes.
So what's the name of the conference again?
Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. Okay. And the website is healthykitchens.org. All
right. I'm going to check that out. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
So those mythical light bulb moments do exist. That's good to know. Tell us what exactly is Thrive Kitchen, and how you kind of then took this and parlayed this into your job, so to speak, and what Thrive Kitchen is. I see you're wearing your uniform there, which looks very nice. I'm kind of jealous.
Thank you. So I started teaching cooking, as I said, after that conference, before I was at Kaiser. And, you know, it wasn't an overnight success. I, you know, basically had to figure out how to teach classes, how to run classes. And it was a big learning curve. I started in pretty much any place anybody would have me, which were a lot of community settings, public libraries, community centers, adult night school, et cetera, before I really learned how to be a good cooking teacher. And I took all of those learnings when I decided that I was going to come and work for Kaiser. And I'll tell you about how that happened. You know, basically, where I used to work, I presented it. I actually had a business plan, and they liked it, but not enough to support it. And I understood that, actually, even though I'm not a business person at all. That's my one big weakness. I understood that, yeah, it probably doesn't make sense in a place where it's fee for service and you make money from sick visits. And then I thought, okay, who might like this idea better? And all this time, for years, you know, I'd seen billboards, radio ads, everything for Kaiser's Thrive campaign. And because of that, I knew that there was the farmers markets. And it was a very simple equation, not rocket science. It was literally, okay, they have the ingredients. Do people know what to do with it? That was literally my thought process. And also from the business point of view, I'm like, if any health system is going to think about this as something that potentially might be good from a business point of view, it would be an HMO or somewhere where prevention actually is good for the bottom line. So that was my basic thinking, you know, and And so I kind of pitched it and I thought, all right, here I am. I'm an experienced doctor. I don't want to leave my patients. It'll take a lot for me to go somewhere else.
Mhm.
I have this. If they will support this idea of having cooking classes for patients, then I'm willing to start over. And that's what I did.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
such a great story. And, that's one of the things I love best about, excuse me, working at Permanente and being a Permanente physician is ultimately that goal on prevention, right? We're not paid to prescribe more medications or do more tests. We're paid to keep people healthy, right? And that's really the ultimate goal. And what I love about primary care too. And
yes. And to answer your question a little bit more about Thrive Kitchen. So these are classes that I started in the San Francisco location that until the pandemic were only hands-on and in person. And we haven't restarted those yet. And I was actually very sad, amongst many other things about the pandemic, that the classes had to stop for a bit.
Yeah.
But then I realized, okay, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. We're doing everything else on video. Let me try to do these video classes. And so now it actually might be better in that it's more accessible to people. It's also now free. So for everyone out there, all Kaiser members can take Thrive Kitchen classes for free. The best way to get information about that is to look up the Kaiser Permanente San Francisco Healthy Cooking website, which is something I put together during the pandemic as well. It actually has cooking videos on very basic cooking techniques that anybody can access at any time. So that's available to anyone, patients, etc. It also has the monthly schedule for our classes and information on how to schedule for those. And so I encourage everyone to take those classes and to refer your patients to them.
I'm taking notes right now too. And that's great for me. Being in Southern California, my patients can't pop up to San Francisco for the day, but they can pop onto a Zoom meeting for cooking class. That's amazing. I love it. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Tell us what do you think, what are kind of the biggest takeaways you think patients can take from these cooking classes, and how any particular stories about patients it's helped in particular?
Alex, it's almost like embarrassing to tell you how much these classes, which are truly, a lot of work, but so much fun for me. It's like my favorite thing to do is actually to teach someone who either doesn't know how to cook or doesn't know how to cook in a way that's health supportive, to give them those skills, right? Because again, a lot of what we do as a doctor is very prescriptive. That is not a life skill. And we don't live in that patient's life. We don't live in that patient's body. If we really want our patients to be healthy, we need to give them skills. So that's what I love about it. Plus I love the food and the community and all of that. And so the embarrassing part of it is, because I love it so much, is that I haven't gotten the best feedback from patients since I started teaching them how to cook. Or even taking a step back from that, even when I just started to talk to them more about what they're eating and make suggestions that they could implement in their own lives. People will say things like, I've been to so many doctors in my life and you're the only doctor who's helped me, or you've changed my life, or I've never felt this good. I mean, it sounds like hyperbole, right? But for, someone like you who knows about prevention and lifestyle and takes good care of yourself, you understand that. And I think that is so powerful, and it doesn't cost any money. It is actually just taking the time and making it a priority for your patients, having them understand that actually this prescription that I'm about to not write anymore, send through Epic for you, is not the most important thing. It's actually what you do day to day. Not I focus on the eating part of it, but all the other parts of lifestyle medicine, exercise, sleep, stress management, avoiding unhealthy substances, and mental health, all of those things. Those are the most powerful parts of medicine.
Yeah. And so there's a question in the chat here. So the virtual cooking classes they're free for any KP member, even if they're outside of Northern California, correct?
Yes. They were, for a while we were restricting it to Northern California, but because we can now do unlimited, and the platform isn't good enough for me to really see that closely for a smaller number of people. It's pretty much unlimited. You will have to go through the Kaiser San Francisco website or contact by email or phone number to register. Or if you're able to do an e-consult to Northern California, probably not though, right?
So I don't think so.
So you'll have to, it's email sfhealthed. Is that right? sfhealthed@kp.org. Yes.
Okay, great.
And or call, I'll just give the phone number so people hear it, 415-833-3450, and call. You can register people for Thrive Kitchen that way.
Great. I'll ask you to repeat all that at the end of the webinar too,
Yes.
just so people can write it down. So get your pens handy.
Yes.
So as a physician, I didn't really learn much about nutrition in medical school. I learned about, biochemical
Yes.
pathways and things like that. So what advice do you have for physicians who can better equip ourselves with knowledge about nutrition, so then we can then better and equip our patients to care for themselves also?
Yes. So again, I highly recommend Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives, because that's where you can really get a good overview of everything. There are other nutrition courses and CMEs out there, and I encourage you to take something. You can also learn a lot by self-study. I did the Cornell plant-based nutrition certificate, and that's something that you could do. You get CME for it. I believe you do. Yes, it's fairly expensive. But you don't need to do that. You can do a lot of reading through that. So I think having the interest in it and finding a way, and I should mention also the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has a lot of nutrition CME. There are many ways that you can do self-study for that. So I highly recommend any of those. But I do, again, think that the interest in it and communicating that interest to your patients is the most important thing. Nobody expects you to be an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm not a registered dietitian. So this is actually all about taking advantage of the fact that we're integrated and that we have really a great network of health educators and dietitians. Part of it is being aware enough to know that you should refer to people.
Right.
So take advantage of that. Send your patients to, I know in Southern California, it's a Center for Healthy Living, right?
Yep.
Take advantage of that. Other places don't have that. We have that, and we should take advantage of that and learn ourselves from that. We are also Kaiser patients. You can sign yourself up for classes that way too. So I think just being aware and then knowing where to refer and finding out some way, whatever way works best for you to do your own learning.
Yeah. So I actually did that. I actually did sign myself up for a Center for Healthy Living nutrition class. Actually, it was fantastic. And I feel like it better equipped me to then educate my patients about what to expect as well, too.
Exactly.
And so I think for me personally, as a primary care physician, I always try to practice what I preach, but also at the same time, the more that I feel like I can lead by example, that can help my patients sometimes also too.
Oh yeah, I think leading by example, I think is a great thing, not to like put pressure on people. I do want to acknowledge that I've heard from some other physicians feeling like, especially if they have some concerns about their weight, for example, that means that they need to be skinny to be able to counsel effectively, and not at all, actually. I always tell my patients, this is not about weight, this is about healthy eating at any weight. And so the example is actually to talk about healthy eating with your patients and to ask about, what percentage of your diet is fruits and vegetables? Do you eat whole grains? I do these things. Do you cook at home? Do you, restrict how many times you eat out? And if you live that way, it'll be very natural and organic for you to do that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic piece of advice right there too. I often will tell people that if you focus on sort of the lifestyle pieces, the diet, the exercise, the sleep, that, weight is almost a secondary consideration. And you can be skinny and unhealthy, and you can be overweight and healthy.
Yes.
And so that's another issue, but that's another topic for another day.
That's another topic. Yeah.
So what do you say, obviously we're all extremely busy, patients are busy, physicians are busy. What do you tell both patients and physicians who say, they don't really have time to cook healthy, or they don't feel like they have the money to buy healthy foods? What do you tell those patients or those physicians that just feel they don't have the resources or time and they need?
Sure. So time and cost. So first, on the cost issue, so there are various levels of that. There's, from the extreme of food insecurity, in which case, I want people to refer patients to food banks, or our most recent, and now of course it's Thrive Local.
Thrive Local, yep.
Which has all the resources there and will help your patients access whatever resources they know. I think a lot of physicians don't know about it. So please, let's get that out. Thrive Local has the sites for all the basically resources for whether it's housing, food, other kind of social determinants of health resources are all there. And then if it's about, is healthy food more expensive? I actually disagree with that, because if healthy food means mainly eating plant-based, Fruits and vegetables are much cheaper actually than meat and then processed foods. I can't compete with McDonald's, but I don't want to compete with McDonald's in terms
Right.
of cost. Purchasing things in bulk and preparing things in bulk, getting to that other part of time, is a really good way to make healthy cooking very doable for pretty much anyone. And I do want to point out a page in my book here. The most important page is meal planning, and that's page 40 something here, which I'll try to get to really quickly. But so of course, I would love you to get my book, but if you don't get my book, think about making a meal plan. But this is the page here. It's page 42. This is a whole month. I just want to point out, I have my blur on, so you can't really see it. A whole month of recipes. And the way I thought I kind of very cleverly designed that is in categories. So we have different recipes for each week, but 7 different categories, and you can think of your own. So that can be Taco Tuesday. It can be, and you can extend that to other wraps also. You can have, breakfast for dinner. That's one of my categories. Mm-hmm. You can have a soup day. You can have dinner salad. So think of, I think most people have basic cooking skills where they know how to make sort of types of things, and they think, oh, I need to make something different every day. You don't. If you have the skills, this is more of a template. The skills to make a salad, you can make many different salads. If you know how to make a noodle or pasta dish, you can make many noodles or pasta dishes. So I think part of it is actually the confidence to know that actually, even if you know how to make just a few things, that can turn into many different recipes. And if you meal prep so that you have, let's say, a sheet pan of roasted vegetables, some whole grains that are pre-cooked that you can either freeze or put in the fridge, maybe some tasty homemade dressings or sauces, then the rest of it can come together pretty quickly on a weeknight.
Very nice. I like that a lot. Well, and speaking about the cookbook, tell us about kind of what prompted you to write this cookbook and your experience of writing it. It's pretty amazing. I don't know many authors, and many physician authors are even more impressive too. I don't know how you do it in all your any free time you have left at the end of the day.
I honestly don't know how I did it, because I didn't take off any extra time. For a full year, I used all of my nights, weekends, and vacation time for it, but still looking at that, I don't know how I accomplished it. So you have to be a certain kind of crazy to want to write any sort of book, and especially a cookbook, which requires developing recipes, etc. But I wrote it because I love food, and I wrote it kind of thinking about how only a small number of people will take my classes, but that the same lessons that I give in my classes, I actually give in this book. And so they're recipes that are meant for someone who has basic cooking skills. And I go over some of those skills in the book as well as a lot of information about ingredients, how to use them, how to shop for them, how to store them, etc. So those are the lessons that come from my, decade of experience teaching people how to cook. And then I know that nobody will eat healthy food if it doesn't taste good. And so that was really the idea, that I would give recipes from around the world using spices which have health benefits, but also make food taste good. And kind of give people the variety that make healthy cooking interesting and delicious, because the only food diet people will stick to is one that tastes good, right? We know that. That's human nature.
Yep.
And the experience of it was really like, I am just kind of crazy, and I just went for it. I really wanted to do it, and then I had a contract, and so I had to stick to that contract, and that's kind of what took me over the finish line.
Yeah. So another question here in the chat, actually, and they even note that they're embarrassed to write this. But what do you tell parents of kids in particular who are picky eaters and will only eat chicken tenders and hot dogs? And I'm guilty of that too with my kids also too.
I totally get it. So I have 2 daughters who are now both out of the house, 18 and 20. And so they wanted all that too. It was almost like, they were in elementary, middle school maybe they were in middle school when I started teaching classes. And I was like, you can't eat that stuff. People might recognize you. They might be like, wait a minute, your mom is that healthy cook, doctor. What are you eating? But you give in sometimes. Don't beat yourself up over that. But the trick is, and I know we all know this, right? Because you're taught this, you try over and over. You offer the food to the kid over and over, but you also involve the kid in both the menu planning, the buying of groceries, or going to the farmer's market, even better, and having them involved as much as is safe as possible in the cooking. They are much more likely to eat something if they're involved in any or all of those steps. Like I remember that when my kids were little, they went to a summer camp where cooking classes were part of it. And one day, one of my kids who didn't like quinoa, came home, she's like, I want this quinoa salad. I'm like, okay. And it was because she had made it that day. It didn't matter that I had made it a million times.
Right.
She had made it. It was hers. So make it theirs. And don't give up ever. The same kid who wants the chicken tenders, okay, like give them the chicken tenders, but make a homemade version. That will still be better than the ultra processed one. And also introduce a little bit of whatever vegetable they're willing to have on the side.
Yeah, that's my thing too. And my kids know this. I have a 6, 9, and 12-year-old at home, and they know that every meal has a fruit and a vegetable, regardless of whatever else that main course comes with it. And I always give them options. I'm like, do you want carrots? Do you want cucumbers? Or do you want peppers? But you're eating a vegetable, and so they get to choose, and they're much more likely to eat it if they got to choose which of those 3 vegetables we happen to have in the refrigerator that day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, we're getting a little short on time here, but this is a fantastic topic. I want to touch on real briefly how this process of kind of doing what you love and incorporating what you love into your day job, so to speak, how that has helped fulfill you as a physician and help bring your own kind of well-being as well as sense of sort of ability to treat your patients and care for them the way that you really want. Tell me more about that.
So I think there's both a danger and a possibility in bringing your outside passions into your career, right? So I was a little bit worried because before I made this part of my job, I already had my blog, which is spiceboxtravels.com, but it wasn't healthy cooking necessarily. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I thought, if this becomes my work, will I no longer have joy? Mm-hmm. And, it turned out that I didn't lose that, but the danger was I was working too much in the very beginning. I had to figure out a balance. And I think this will be true no matter whatever it is that is your passion that you bring to your job. Because if you're passionate about something, you're not going to stop it. No one's going to tell you to not work as much. And you may not recognize that you need to. So I had to figure out that I was actually working too much on this because I love it so much. But it has really given me, I think, a very personal connection to my work as a patient. Like I already had my sort of, I guess, persona as a primary care doctor before I integrated this, but it wasn't, I guess, the full me. And now that I have what I love so much is like my kind of unique interest and ability to transform people's lives and transform people's health through food, I think if you're it's like being a happy parent. If you're a happy parent, you're going to have happy kids. If you're a happier doctor because you're bringing your joy to your patients through whatever it is. But let's say, I know you're into exercise a lot, right? Like through that, when you talk about exercise for you with your patients, I'm sure like your face lights up. It's the same thing for me when I'm talking about food with my patients. And I know that I'm like the expert who doesn't like having expertise and being the expert and knowing that you can really, really help your patient in a way that someone else may not be able to. I think that's really why it has brought so much to my work. Again, with the caveat that I have to set limits on myself.
No, that's fantastic. And I think that's a really important piece to bring your humanity as a physician to what we do. We can better connect with our patients. They can better connect with us. And ultimately, I think everybody wins at the end. Yes. But that, again, that's a whole other topic in and of itself also. All right. This has been fantastic. We can go on and on. I do want to try and keep this wrapped up. So last question, what makes you most proud to be a Permanente physician?
I am just proud that I think there is room, a room with a lot of work for people who have passions. There's room to bring this to our jobs. It takes a while, but I love it that there's that flexibility. And I'm also proud that, we work with this large network. Sometimes the large part of it isn't so great, but that, you're in Southern California, I'm in Northern California, and yet we are colleagues and we can work together and share ideas about this. And I love that we have this really robust health education department or Center for Healthy Living, because really I came from a place that didn't have that. And I really think it's underutilized. And I think that we have lots of potential to grow it, that we have potential to grow lifestyle medicine within Kaiser Permanente. So I think all of this stuff, the prevention, the collegiality, and the network.
Awesome. Well, Linda, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and all your wisdom. And tell us real quick about how people can find your classes and find your cookbook as well.
Yes. So the easiest way to get to the classes, which are called Thrive Kitchen, is just look up Kaiser Permanente Health Education San Francisco Healthy Cooking, and you'll find it. All that information is there. My cookbook, Spicebox Kitchen, is, as we like to say, available anywhere books are sold, but I encourage you to visit your favorite independent bookseller or bookshop.org to find that. In Southern California, I want to give a shout out to Now Serving, which is located in downtown Los Angeles in Chinatown. Great independent bookshop focused on cookbooks. And of course, you can use any of the, I won't name the online web sellers, but you can get it. You can get anywhere. Just try to support your local bookstores.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Have a great day.